Good morning, students. This is Professor Venkatachalapathi, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. I would like to discuss on welding process. In that, the major important topic is TIG welding and MIG welding. So, this welding process comes under the manufacturing process. This course can be in the mechanical engineering branch in the second year, second semester. Okay. And I would like to give some concept of TIG welding, MIG welding. What are the important principle involved in the TIG welding, MIG welding, and advantages, limitations, applications of TIG and MIG welding. We'll discuss in detail. Okay. Let us see the main outline of this presentation is what is meant by the term welding. And in that welding, what is the basic introduction to the tungsten inert gas welding, metal inert gas welding, and the basic principle involved in this TIG and MIG welding, and what are the various advantages, disadvantages of TIG welding rather than MIG welding, and what are the important, the real societal applications for this TIG welding and MIG welding. Okay, so let us see. As you know that the term welding can be defined as it is the process of joining two similar metals or dissimilar metals by adding filler metal without adding filler metal, with application of pressure and temperature without application of pressure and temperature. So this is what is general definition, technical definition of a welding. So in that, the another most important thing is the tungsten inert gas welding. Let us see the basic definition of TIG welding and MIG welding, how it will work. So what are the important principle behind in this TIG welding and MIG welding. So let us see the tungsten inert gas, TIG welding. The tungsten inert gas welding. Mainly this uses a long rods to fuse two metals directly together. So there is the two metals can be joined directly together. That is called tungsten inert gas welding. Let us see the general constructional features. This is a line diagram of tungsten inert gas welding. There will be a base metal. This is called the base metal. And this is the weld metal. After completion of the welding, we can show that this is the weld metal, and this is the rod, okay, filler rod, where you can able to put at an angle of 35 to 40 degrees centigrade angle, and this is a torch. So this is called the fixed tungsten electrode will be kept, and there will be gas supply. This is called inert gas supply will enter to this holder. And this total process, this is the power source can be obtained. Okay, so this is what the general idea about the tungsten inert gas welding. In general, the tungsten inert gas welding majorly where you can use the non-consumable electrode. This is the very important term. So when you can say the tungsten inert gas welding, we can use non-consumable electrode. So non-consumable electrode and a different filler metal. That is the basic concept or definition of the TIG welding. Okay, and another thing is MIG welding, metal inert gas arc welding. So in this case, there will be a consumable electrode is the main criteria. So okay, so the MIG welding, this is a consumable electrode that feed wire continuously moves to the gun in order to create a spark and then melts to form the weld. So this is a semi-automatic or automatic arc. So in this right side, you can see clearly the term MIG welding, metal inert gas welding. Here also this is the base metal, and after welding here, this is the weld metal. So the weld start from here right to left, it is processed through this, and this is why weld metal. And here also this is the inert gas supply, and there will be continuous consumable electrode. It is like a wire will process through the machine feed wire rod. The continuously it will flow the wire and it will be spark and be apparent. There will be shielded gas. So shielded gas and this arc also can be obtained in this MIG welding. Okay, so here also there is a power source and this is a ground cable. You can keep the earth cable and the simple the base metal, and this is called about the molten metal weld pool. So this is called weld bead, that red color, orange and yellow color. This is also very important, that orange is arc and shielded gas is the yellow color and red is the molten weld pool. This red color is the molten weld pool. This is a simple principle of TIG welding and MIG welding. So TIG welding only there is a non-consumable electrode. So here this electrode should be non-consumable. Always you can keep one electrode can able to perform continuous operation. But where in the case of MIG welding there will be a consumable electrode. That is why it is a feed rod will be processed through the small opening that a rollers also can fed through that rod, so that uniform thickness can be formed, and whenever it will consume, the more consume, so like that a feed rod wire can be used constantly moves through the gun in order to create the spark and then melts to form the welding. Okay, the two metals can be joined together with the continuous flow of material, that is a consumable material, that is called MIG welding, metal inert gas welding. So this is what about the basic fundamental definition of TIG welding and MIG welding. Tungsten inert gas welding uses long rods to fuse two metals directly fabricated together or welded together. So this uses only non-consumable electrode typically used in a tungsten inert gas welding, whereas MIG welding, metal inert gas welding, consumable electrode can be widely used, the MIG welding, metal inert gas welding. So this consumable, that is why it is in the form of a wire. Feed wire will process through that roller, so that it will be consumed by whatever the metal is required. That amount of material will be joined together and form a two joint. This is what weld metal. So how the completion of the weld, it will comprises of the red color, orange color, yellow color. So where this yellow is a shielded gas, it will cover in a shielded, and there will be arc whenever it will touch that feed wire. There will be create a spark through the gun. So whenever the spark come, it will melt and to form the weld. Okay. So this is what about the definition of a TIG welding and MIG welding. Now let us see what is the basic principle involved in MIG welding and TIG welding. Okay, so the term TIG means tungsten inert gas welding, and MIG means metal inert gas arc welding. This is also not a, it is a arc welding, shielded gas arc welding. The majority of the students are confusing that metal inert gas means it is not a gas welding. It is also a arc welding, where that principle is tungsten inert gas arc welding, shielded gas arc welding, metal inert gas arc welding. Okay, and during the MIG welding, already I have explained, a continuously fed electrode wire and shielding gas is fed into the welding area via hand-held MIG torch, that is metal inert gas torch. So look at this the line diagram of MIG welding. So here there will be base metal and weld metal. So after processed the welding, it is a weld metal, and there will be weld pool and arc shielding gas, and electrode will be kept through this electrode shield, and there will be shielding gas, and machine is fed through the wire rod. The MIG welding is consumable electrode, it's continuously formed. This wire will be formed in a rotated form, and it will process through this. But whereas in this TIG welding, tungsten inert gas welding, only the consumable, non-consumable electrode to be used. This is non-consumable electrode to be used. Here MIG welding, consumable electrode to be used. So that is why the fundamental definition of the MIG welding and TIG welding. So let us see the MIG welding. There will be a consumable electrode to be fed through a machine rollers through continuously wherever it will consume the metal due to from the gun only spark can be initiated due to that spark heating can be generated so that the weld can be done or performed together joining of the two metals. So after this is starting from right to left, this is a welded metal, this is a base metal, okay, and here all the color indication. Let us see the how we can able to do the weld pool and arc and shielding gas is covered throughout that and also heat affected zone. The heat affected zone it will process. This is the heat affected zone HAZ. So it is the starting center point to the right side of that level. You can call the heat affected zone. Similarly, the left side. Okay, and the basic difference between a TIG and MIG welding. TIG welding only the non-consumable electrode to be used. MIG welding consumable electrode to be used. These two important terminology. Any competitive examination they may ask whether it is a IES or GATE, any type of competitive examination, they'll ask in the objective type questions. TIG welding is used in dash type of electrode, non-consumable electrode. MIG welding, it is a consumable electrode. So that is a simple one-word sentence. And where in the case of TIG welding, the torch holds a consumable tungsten electrode. Okay, so MIG welding, it is a consumable electrode, whereas TIG welding, non-consumable electrode to be used. Non-consumable electrode, whereas supply lamp can be, you can see this is called welding rod, and here this tungsten electrode, it is a fixed non-consumable electrode to be kept, and the shielding gas will enter, and this is the gas nozzle, and this is the contact tube, and the shielding gas or can be generated. This is what about the main principle involved in TIG welding and MIG welding. Now let us see what are the important advantages of metal inert gas welding, and similarly what are the disadvantages of metal inert gas welding. Similarly, let us discuss about the TIG welding also. The first and four important point is the higher welding speed. So whenever you can see this is what metal inert gas. So whenever it is a non-consumable electrode, the continuously that feed rod will be melted so that it can come to the electrode continuously or consistently. That's why it is a very higher welding speed can be formed in the metal inert gas welding, and also greater deposition rates. So here weld pool can be, the deposition rate will be more. So the greater compared to the TIG welding, the almost all that thickness of that wire when you spark comes from the gun, it will consume very fastly. That is why it is a greater deposition rates can be occur in the MIG welding, and there will be less post welding cleaning. So this is one interesting one. Example, there is no slag to chip off the weld. There is no slag to chip off the weld. That is why less post welding cleaning is required in MIG welding. But where in the case of TIG welding, there is a good, that is more post welding cleaning is required so that some slag or chip of the weld can be easily removable. And one more point is a better weld pool visibility. So okay, so here whenever you can flow of that consumable electrode, you can able to clearly visible the weld pool visibility. This is what how the weld pool. So you can see this is called in weld pool in a some yellowish color that can be easily visible in MIG welding compared to the TIG welding. And no stub end losses or wasted man hours caused by changing the electrodes, because it is a continuously coming that electrode, consumable electrode, who can fix it somewhere else. It will be processed continuously so that there is no need to changing of the electrodes. Okay, so whenever one length of electrode can be used, when it is completed, again we should go for the another electrode, so that there is a wastage of time for exchanging of the electrodes. Such a case here, it is not required, because it is a consumable electrode. It is a total shift to how much amount of the filler rod is required. It can be processed through consumable electrode for a in the workshop. Okay, and another thing is low skilled factor is required to operate. So whereas the main important thing is not that much skill is required. So automatically there is a setup. The setup will be often here. You can see the base metal, weld metal, and there will be torch, okay, shielding gas, and contact tube and gas nozzle will be there, and inside that there will be consumable electrode will process through, so that low skill factor is required to operate the metal inert gas or torch, welding torch. And another interesting one, positional welding offers no problems when compared to the other process. So here the position welding offers no problems. Even if you change a slight variation position also, it doesn't change anything. But certainly in arc welding, what will happen? We should be able to maintain certain degrees, 30 to 40 or 30 to 60 to be maintained, in order to you can have a good joint, and the weld pull also can be effectively seen. So, and another interesting point is where the process is easily automated. So once it has been set all those things, the human that a welder is not all required. The only starting setup only you can arrange all those things. Once it has been started, the process is continuously can be formed automated, and no flex is required most of the cases. There is no need to add the flexes, so that thing also will be eliminated. And ultra high hydrogen process, ultra low hydrogen process. These are the 5 major advantages while performing the metal inert gas welding. That is what? Higher welding speeds, greater deposition rates, less post welding cleaning, because there is no slag to chip off the weld, and no stud end losses or wasted of man hours caused by changing the electrodes. Here there is no need to change of the electrodes. Obviously man hours can be reduced, and low skill factor is required to operate metal inert gas. Not a highly skilled labor is never required. Only a human which is having a little knowledge, that person is sufficient. And the positional welding offers no problems when compared to the other process. So that changing of this position, it will be fixed. No need to change the position from the degrees. And the processes can be easily automated, and the flexes it doesn't require majority cases. Ultra low hydrogen process. This is a ultra low hydrogen process. And coming to the limitations or disadvantages of metal inert gas welding. So whenever the total setup will be complicated, the higher initial setup cost. Yes or no? So that metal inert gas welding, the consumable electrode, the setup also will be required, so that higher initial setup cost. And another important disadvantage is atmosphere surrounding the welding process has to be stable. So because of the shielding gases, therefore this process is limited to drought-free conditions. So this is limited to drought-free conditions. Okay, and in this case, higher maintenance cost, because due to extra electronic components. Okay, so here a little bit maintenance will be a higher cost, so that some extra electronic components should be used. Okay, the setting of the plant variables requires a high skill level. So this is what setting, whatever the setting of that plant variables, and it requires high skill. Whenever the high skill person means, the cost also will be more for that labor. And another disadvantage, less efficient where high duty cycle requirements are necessary. So this is what high duty cycle plays an important role in any welding process. Here in this case, it is a less efficient where the heavy duty or high duty cycle requirements are necessary. And finally, radiation effects are more severe. So due to more temperature and more heating and all, this radiation effects are more severe. These also disadvantages. This is what about the MIG welding advantages and limitations. And coming to the advantages of TIG welding. So the first and foremost thing for the TIG welding is there will be non-consumable electrodes to be used. Yes or no? Non-consumable electrode to be used because it helps to provide flawless joints, that is defect free. So there will be almost all you should be able to provide sound joint, that is a flawless joints, defect free type of components can be easily fabricated because it is not needed to stop the replacing electrode in a consumable electrode. So here we can use the non-consumable, only the electrode should be standard one, it cannot be consumable, so that no need for replacing the electrode in consistently. Okay, so that contribute to reducing downtime can be reduced, so that in the production whenever the downtime can be reduced, production rate can be increased. Okay, and there is no flux is required because inert gas shields molten metal. Okay, there is no flux is required, no inert gas shields molten metal, and also no slag and slag inclusion problems will be there in this TIG welding. Okay, so especially while performing the tungsten inert gas welding, the quality is very high. High quality and strong welding is achieved by the tungsten inert gas welding. So whenever by seeing the quality, mirror like finish also it may occur, that seems to be a tungsten inert gas welding. So where in the case of this TIG welding, cleaner and more appealing joints can be performed. Sometimes they don't need a finishing process. In general, welding means the two joints, two metals workpieces can be joined together. Obviously there will be extra and some fused metal will be there that can be removed by some chipping hammer, etc. But where in the case of TIG welding, the type of unwanted material is not that much there, so that the finishing will be good in a TIG welding, and they are suitable for the welding very thin sections. Especially TIG welding prefer for thin sections. MIG welding you can go for the some thick sections also. Okay, and the versatility of method, they can work with or without the filler metal. Sometimes in TIG welding, with or without, only that electrode filler metal not required. Sometimes only they can add some flexes only. So this metal can be welded where non-ferrous metals such as aluminum, copper, dissimilar metals can be easily welded without any challenge. Okay, so this is a non-corrosive and ductile joints of the metals can be done in the tungsten inert gas welding. Okay, similarly with this disadvantage of TIG welding, so tungsten inert gas is a time consuming process. Why? Because where it can be a non-consumable electrode to be used, there are very slower than any other welding process. Slowly it can perform, because even though it is a consumable electrode, the time is required. Non-consumable electrode is there, it is fixed, there is no need to change of that, so that it is a very slow process and a lower filler deposition, that very small amount of filler will be deposited, so that more complicated and highly skilled persons and professional workers are needed to perform TIG welding. So complicated shapes and complicated thing, highly skilled labor is required for TIG welding. But where in the case of MIG welding, only very less skilled professional workers are sufficient. Okay, coming to the safety, TIG welding is welders are exposed to high intensity of light. So because this is a disadvantage, the high intensity of light will cause to your eye problem and some eye damage also may be occur. Okay, so that is why we should take all the precautions like goggles, and without goggles it is difficult to do perform this TIG welding. So if you do without goggles, that high intensity light fell on your retina, eye may damage. But in this case, initial cost also very high. So in the TIG welding, initial cost also will be high, and so that it cannot use it for thick sections of the metals. wherever when you wanted to perform a thick sections, cost will be more. So that this is not preferable for the thick section of the metal in a tungsten inert gas arc welding. So this is what about the advantages of TIG welding and disadvantages of TIG welding. Now basically some applications also plays an important role. What are the major applications? Okay, so whenever you can speaking about the tungsten inert gas welding or metal inert gas welding, so the most important applications for TIG welding are pipeline and pipe welding process. So look at in this how it can perform that large pipeline and pipe welding can be performed. Obviously, the tungsten inert gas welding. Okay, so it is, however, it is used in many industries such as aviation, aeronautical, and aerospace, and some automobile and sheet metal industries. Most widely preferred for this TIG welding. Okay, so whenever this welding is particularly thin materials and special materials such as titanium materials also can be performed in this TIG welding. Titanium materials can be easily processed by this tungsten inert gas arc welding, and also some thin materials are be preferred. Okay, and this what about this MIG welding means used most of the types of sheet metal welding process. For example, fabrication of pressure vessels, some of the steel structures. Okay, fabrication of the pressure vessels and the steel structures, and automobile or automotive industries and home improvement industries are the most successful widely used applications in TIG welding and MIG welding. Okay, so this is what about the how the TIG welding can be widely used in pipeline and pipe welding process, because in many industries such as aviation or aerospace and sheet metal, some lightweight also should be required, so that this material, this process can perform good quality and light in weight. That is why this can be almost or preferred in a very thin materials and some special materials such as titanium. So titanium type of materials can be preferred this TIG welding, and also it is used in most types of sheet metal welding process. Okay, so and the fabrication of pressure vessels, how we will fabricate the pressure vessels and steel structures in this TIG welding, and majority automobile industry only suitable for the TIG and MIG welding, and some home improvement industries, also they can preferred very effectively in this TIG and MIG welding. So this is what about the tungsten inert gas arc welding, metal inert gas arc welding. Okay, this is what we have discussed so far. Outline of the presentation is the definition of TIG MIG welding, introduction to tungsten inert gas welding, where you can perform continuous what you call non-consumable electrode. MIG welding is consumable electrode to be used in the MIG welding. And the basic principle involved in this only a continuous fed electrode wire and shielding is fed through the area, so that here obviously MIG welding means continuously electrode. Okay, so consumable electrode to be used, whereas TIG welding is non-consumable electrode such as tungsten electrode. Okay, and shielding gas is fed through this supply line. Okay, so these are the some of the advantages of MIG welding, disadvantages of MIG welding. Among that, majorly low skilled factor is required to operate what you call MIG welding. Okay, and similarly, if you see high skill to operate in a TIG welding or torch also. Okay, so this process can be easily automated. Why? Because the human intervention is very minimum, so that once you have to do the setup continuously without having any defects. Okay, so flawless components can be easily performed by this metal inert gas welding. Similarly, the disadvantage is initial cost will be very high. So when you wanted to control the setup cost, only thing is you can reduce the materials and set up the system also you can able to perform. And the maintenance costs also will be high because of extra electronic components are there. So now any type of MIG or TIG welding, extra electronic components can be used so that some what you call the benefit of that technique only performed better. Okay, and efficient is very, very less where high duty cycle requirement are necessary, and the radiation effects are very, very more severe in this MIG welding. Similarly, advantages of TIG welding. So non-consumable electrode to be used, flawless joints because of not needed to stop the replacing of the existing one. Okay. So and another important point is no flex is required because of inert gas shield metal, molten metal is prepared. So there is no slag inclusion problem, and high quality and strong welding achieved by through tungsten inert gas welding only. Okay, some of the cleaner and more appealing joints, sometimes they don't feed finishing process. In such cases, you can able to do some important techniques. Okay, and one more thing is this is a water cell method. They can work with or without the filler metal, and there will be wide range of metal can be welded so that non-ferrous metals such as aluminum, copper, dissimilar metals can be welded without any change or non-corrosive and ductile material. So this is what about the advantages, limitations, and these are the applications of this most important application for tungsten inert gas arc welding, where it can be used in pipeline and pipe welding process. Okay, so this is what about the some basic applications such as aviation, aerospace, and some of the sheet metal industries can be done by this process. So finally, these are also used to type of sheet metal welding is fabrication of the pressure vessels, okay, steel structures, and automobile industry and home. What is the home improvement industries are the very, very achievable nowadays, unless and otherwise you have a proper work experience and how to tackle the that type of engineers so that they can able to produce the more output. Okay, so this is what about the important concept of TIG welding and MIG welding, and this is comes under the what you call this is also comes under the manufacturing process in mechanical engineering second semester process. Okay, so thank you, students. So next class we will discuss another topic. Okay, good luck.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.